most people, not just women, but most people out there right now in 2026 feel so overwhelmed with life. They don't even know where to spend their time. But at the same time, we feel the need to be informed. We feel the need to know what's going on in the world and not, stick our head in the ground like an ostrich.
Millions of American families.
And then they came up, it's a word that they came up.
Hello, welcome to The Missing Piece. My name is Danielle Griffiths. I'm here with my host, Brooke Benevento. Hello, my friend. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Amazing. So excited we're doing this and so excited to just talk to people, help them.
Thank you so much for everyone for being here. I really want to start this episode off with sharing a little bit about why Danielle and I decided to do this podcast and what intention we have for it, because I think that's really important. I'll tell a little bit of a backstory about myself. In late 2021, I hit rock bottom and I was super depressed, stuck in life, and ultimately was on the verge of really taking my own life. And I ended up on the bathroom floor crying out to God because I was stuck and just didn't know where I was going. And 3 months later, I ended up meeting my mentor, Satish Verma from the Think and Grow Rich Institute. My husband and I ended up enrolling into his year-long program that ended up being the beginning of what I now know was my own personal awakening. Once I graduated from that program, I made the decision to start coaching women. And what I started to realize was there were so many women out there that were just like me. They were stuck and they didn't know where they were going. And then one day, Danielle reaches out to me and says something along the lines of, "Brooke, what have you been doing? You seem so different." And of course, we started talking because we had known each other for a few years through my husband. And I started to share like all the things that my mentor was teaching me. And she just latched right onto it and started implementing all those things too. And she started seeing the same transformation in herself. She started feeling better, more confident and happier. And then she was like, "What the heck's happening?" And I said, "I know, right? Like it works. Like the things that we're doing is working." And Danielle and I would find ourselves on the phone for hours. And and we would be on the phone for hours with each other. And I would teach her about manifestation and awareness. And she would start to educate me on history and politics and why we were where we were at. And then one day she's like, in a very serious tone, like, "This was serious, Brooke. We need to tell people about this. Like, we need to get this out. We need to share like what we're experiencing. Like, we can't keep this to ourselves anymore." And she's like, "We got to start a podcast." Yeah, we got to start a podcast. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's start a podcast. And we believe that having more open conversations, being more vulnerable, we can really start to help others awaken to their inner peace. Because the awakening process, it is the most, and I think Danielle will agree with this, is that it is really one of the most freeing things in the world. And once you feel it and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just who you are now.
It's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, like you just can't, it's like you can't go back. And so I always tell people that when they start this process to make sure that they know that they want to go forward, because there is really no going back after this.
Yeah, I think, during the pandemic, I think a lot of people started soul searching a lot just because we had the time. And I just remember having conversations with you, and I just was in awe of I don't even know how to describe it, just the way you approach life. It was like, I remember you'd always say, "That's okay, that's okay." It really started to seep into my daily life. And I found myself it's almost like a muscle, like when you work out and you get sore because you're recovering. Same thing with the mindset. When I started to being very intentional about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to say, the type of day I had or I wanted to have, it really started to change how I looked at anything, especially obstacles. I used to, something bad would happen and I'd go, oh my gosh, why is this happening? And it would completely ruin my day. It would get worse and worse and worse. And the opposite is true. If you focus on having a good day and knowing that things are going to happen that you don't want to happen, but having the mindset to deal with it in a way where it's just matter of fact. And I think that is life-changing. And I think most people, not just women, but most people out there right now in 2026 feel so overwhelmed with life. They don't even know where to spend their time. But at the same time, we feel the need to be informed. We feel the need to know what's going on in the world and not, stick our head in the ground like an ostrich. We want to be informed. So, this first topic that we're going to be talking about, social heredity and the news and media, I think is so important, especially with everything that's going on with the government, both state, local, globally. There's just so much going on. So if we can help people find a little bit of peace, despite the chaos of the world, I think that would be amazing. So let's go.
Yeah. Okay. The first step to becoming more of who you really are is understanding why you are the way you are. If we don't understand this, we can't move really to the next step. So today, what we're going to talk about is something called, like Danielle said, social heredity. And we are made up really of two things, two main influences in our life, and it's physical heredity and social heredity. And physical heredity, that's basically just what we're born with, our genetics, the color of your eyes, the shape of your nose, the color of your skin. Social heredity, on the other hand, and physical heredity cannot be changed. It is what it is. And I always say, unless you have a really good plastic surgeon, you're probably not going to change your physical heredity that much. Like it's like changing your blood type. You just can't do it. Social heredity, on the other hand, is everything that we have been exposed to growing up. So this is your environment, your experiencing, your experiences, your conditioning, your programming that you were around as a child. So just for a second, I like to do kind of this practice and really imagine yourself just a few minutes old. You've just been born. You've just gone through your birth and you are a complete blank slate. Nothing has really touched you, programmed you, have conditioned you. And what ends up happening from moments after we're born, we start to take all of this in. So we take in beliefs and opinions and the patterns of people who are around us, who are constantly teaching us who to be, what to think, and all these things. So over time, you begin to absorb and adapt to that environment. And essentially, that's who you become. Now, if we break down social heredity down into 4 different categories, we have discovered that these are the most influential in somebody's life growing up. The first one is your family. That would be your parents, your grandparents. The next one is school. That would be, your peers, your teachers, your counselors. We have religion. That'd be your pastors, the church you go to, whatever denomination you are. And then the fourth one would be, the one we're going to talk about today. We are going to eventually go through all of these, but we want to really cap these podcasts at about 20 minutes. So we want to keep it kind of short. But so today we're going to go through just media. And that consists of news, magazines, movies, and now, the last maybe 10 years, maybe social media has kind of come into play in this too. And these influences, they shape the way we think, the believe, and they like to make us think that what we're seeing in the news and the media is normal, right? I think something that, I think we wanted to actually show a clip. Do you want to do that first before we kind of go into it? And that will kind of give people an idea of kind of what we're kind of talking about here, what we're going to kind of go into. I think that might be a good segue. Would that be good for you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
The clip that we're going to be taking a look at is from a documentary called Out of the Shadows. It is available on YouTube. Really, really well done documentary. I think when it came out, people thought it was a little conspiratorial, but given all the exposure that's happened, especially the last few months, I think people are starting to realize we've been lied to a lot. So yeah, let's take a look at that video, the clip. It's right from the beginning, and it's from Out of the Shadows.
Why do you believe what you believe? Because at some point in your life, you trusted the information that somebody was giving you. And that someone you trusted told you that a car was a car, a tree was a tree, a bird was a bird, the blue stuff above you is the sky. And that's the way that we began to determine what we believe to be a fact. Most of the things that we believe to be a fact in our lives are told to us through our stories or the news that we hear. So my question would be, if they were deceiving you with the stories they tell you, would you be able to recognize that?
So again, that clip is from Out of the Shadows. And that question he asks just really hits me hard. How would we know if people were lying to us or not? And I think about growing up as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, all the people we put our trust into, like you were talking about, our parents, our teachers, our politicians. At one point, I think we had trust for, maybe not so much anymore, but we put our trust in people that what they're doing and saying is true. And when we find out that they're lying to us, it's not a good feeling. So one of the reasons we wanted to do this particular episode is to show that a lot of the news media out there is owned by only a couple corporations. And I think understanding that they are cultivating or they're curating rather what we consider to be our world, but everyone is consuming different things. And when we start to understand that, and I know we've talked about this before, when you start seeing the propaganda, it's hard to not see it. It becomes really, really obvious. And it's everywhere. It's in news, it's in advertising. My husband would joke, I buy things off Instagram when I see them for a fourth time, but that repetition makes us think that product or that thing was put in front of us for a reason, and it does something to us psychologically. And so, what would your mindset training tell people about stuff like that? Because I think that's one of when people say, well, what news channels do you watch? I don't watch news channels anymore. Actually, I take that back. It is a good practice for anyone out there to look and see what both sides are saying, because they're completely different realities. Like, you will completely understand, maybe not completely, but you will start to understand if you have a friend or a family member or a colleague that's on the other side of the aisle, and you think, and we know we all do it, even if we don't admit it, how can they think that way? How can they think that way? Well, when you start seeing the news and what they're consuming, it absolutely makes so much sense.
Yeah, 100%. Media plays such a powerful role in shaping our thoughts and emotions and perspectives. A lot of this is actually happening without us even knowing it. That's I think that is the scary part, is that
I actually have one more clip to share.
You do, yes. Yes. Show that clip, because when you showed me this clip, I was shocked. I really was. I was shocked by this clip.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces. But we are concerned about the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. They just say it over and over and over.
Yeah, it's interesting that it just seems so scripted.
But we eat it up.
I always, I laugh at it every time I see it, just because I've seen it so many times now. It's not even shocking to me. And, you know, I gave up the news when I was going through this whole awakening process that I was going through. My mentor was very adamant that be very aware of what you're watching, right? And so something that we did was we would have to watch the news. We would watch the news or any kind of television or, you know, that was on. And it was kind of like a practice to say, like, how is this making us feel in our body when we're watching this, right? Like, are you getting anxious? Are you getting scared? Are you fearful? Like, is it an addiction for you? Is it a habit for you to go home and turn the news on and watch it, you know, morning, noon, and night, you know? And now everything's breaking news all the time. And there's a book that Napoleon Hill, you guys are going to hear me refer to him a lot. I
love Napoleon Hill.
Foundationally, he's a lot about what I talk about. And there is a book called Outwitting the Devil. And Danielle, I think you've read that book.
Life-changing. Yes. It's so good. So good.
Yeah. It is good. And so life-changing book, but it does talk a little bit about this stuff, right? And how we are, we're essentially, we're drifting, right? We're drifting through life. And essentially we are addicted really to our habits, to our drama. And so like you said earlier, the news is all about the drama. And actually, a research was done that the number one, we all have addictions. Let's be honest. You know, it could be drinking, drugs, shopping, exercising. I mean, we're all addicted to something. And the number one addiction actually in the world right now is drama.
Wow.
So, right? Well, so it only makes sense. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think news stopped being news when it became 24/7. And I think a lot of people probably have felt where they feel like, I have no time. I'm so busy. I have no time. And then we look at our screen time and it's like 12 hours or a more reasonable number. Mine's 12 hours. But yeah. I think it's like when I was young and I used to think, I'm so broke, but I would get Starbucks every morning. Like just the awareness of what we are giving our time and energy to and being more healthy with what we consume, I think is life-changing. And it's not that I'm not on social media. I am, but I also don't let hours go by where I'm just, doom scrolling. We need to have a more positive name because doom scrolling sounds horrible, but I did want to mention
I like to call
it. Oh, yeah.
No. Well, I was going to say, I do like to call it, you can change your algorithm really in 24 hours, so go up to the search bar, type in positivity, and then hit search, go through like a lot of positivity posts, like, maybe comment, and you'll see the next day, you'll have a bunch of positive stuff on your feed. So it really is about what we are consuming. And there's just small little tweaks that we can do. And instead of doom scrolling, we can start positivity scrolling. We could call it that now. And because the truth is we all get on social media, we see what's going on, and I hop on there every once in a while and I look and I'm like, okay, I feel better after I get off social media, actually, because my feed is really all positive stuff at this point. So I'm like, oh, okay, I feel good. I got my little positivity kind of, I'm a positivity junkie. So I go in there and, I get it and then I get out. But that's something that you can do too, and I would really suggest that those of you that do spend a lot of time watching the news, I think really start to just feel into that. What does it feel like when I watch this? Do I get angry? Do I feel depressed? Because especially if you're watching it at night, you're going to bed with all of those feelings and all of those thoughts inside of your body, inside of this emotion that we hold, and it's just sitting there all night long, festering into your mind. And so it's really important to really start becoming aware of all of this stuff. And me, I'm super passionate about families. And believe me, if you're watching the news, your kids, whether your kids are in the other room or whatever, they are hearing it. They're hearing that devastating music and that breaking news, and they're absorbing it as well. And so this is a lot about how we were raised, how we were growing up. I mean, me growing up, the news was on all the time. I never really, that's what our parents did. They didn't know, when my older kids were growing up, I watched the news all the time. Now that I know, we don't really allow news in our house anymore because it's just not, we just don't feel like it's a very healthy environment or something to put into our environment. So we just choose not to turn it on, I think when we all can really step back and just try and see the other person's perspective and maybe understand a little bit about, and I think this is going to continue to go back to social heredity, and we're going to continue to talk about this. And you and I chose to talk about this as the foundation of the podcast because it will always go back to this. Social heredity is always about how somebody was raised and what they were influenced by. So if you meet somebody and they have a certain way of thinking, well, you have to understand that they came from may have come from a completely different household, religion, environment than you. Experience. And that is, yes. And this is all they understand. And I will say that going through the program at the Think and Grow Rich Institute, I met a lot of people from a lot of different countries. And it was very eye-opening that we are all more alike than we think we are. And ultimately, we're just out here living our lives, doing for our families, trying to really ultimately, I think a lot of us really trying to survive, and I think if you start to open up conversations with people that are different than you, you're going to start to understand that we're a lot like each other. So have those, I encourage everyone to have those conversations and about things that might be maybe a little uncomfortable, but go into the conversation being, wanting to understand and being curious. I think that's a huge thing. Be very curious about what the other person is saying. Don't try to prove your point. Just be curious. Just learn from
and
them.
Listen.
Yes. Listen.
I think sometimes people are already thinking about what their response is going to be, that they're not listening to the other person.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we're doing, and I think I also, spending where your time is going, right? The news is always trying to get your attention. It wants your ratings. It wants to influence you. So turn it off, read a book, play with your kids, maybe tune into this podcast.
Absolutely.
I don't know, but I'd say the best advice I could give right now is, just maybe turn the news off for a few days and maybe just see how you feel. Because I know from my experience, I feel so much better. And I know that people may say, Brooke, but how do you know what's going on? Like, how do you know? And I always tell them, don't worry. My husband or my mama will tell me what's going on. So
something big is happening. Yeah.
It's happening. Sure. Yeah. Or my kids will let me know what's going on. But for my peace of mind, I have really learned to remove myself from it and to just think for myself. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the whole process of how to think. We're never really taught that. We're always told what to think, and the news is part of that. And so here in later podcasts, we'll talk more about that. I'm excited to talk about that. Next episode, I think we're going to talk about family life. We're going to talk about social heredity and how families, family is huge. It's probably the biggest social heredity that we will talk about. And I'm really excited to talk about that next.
Thank you for spending some time with Brooke and I. We really enjoyed speaking with y'all, and we want to hear from you. So what would you like future episodes to be? Check us out on our social medias. They are all listed in the description, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye, y'all. See you next time.